Hi and welcome to this choral masterclass. My name is Aurelio Porfiri. I am a composer, conductor, writer, educator from Rome, Italy, but active between Rome and Hong Kong. Do you think that difficult pieces means only this kind of very acrobatic pieces with lots of dissonances and lots of very strange and weird rhythms? I don't fully agree. I think that often the very simple pieces are the ones that are more challenging when you are performing. So today I want to present one of these pieces that can be judged as easy or simple at first look, but that indeed has so many things inside, so many details that maybe you have to rethink your opinion. So if you want to know more, please stay tuned. Please now try to travel with me for at least 119 years. Yes, we are at the beginning of the 20th century, 1900. At this time was published a sacred music collection. Indeed, this collection was not exactly published only on that year, because this collection ran between 1897 and 1908. But we are especially interested in that special issue of 1900, because in this issue of Melodie Sacre, this was the name of the collection, Sacred Melodies, was published a piece that I would like to reflect in this video. This piece is called Ecce Panis Angelorum. Is a piece for the Eucharist, for communion, and was written by a very popular Italian composer of the time. The name of this composer was Lorenzo Perosi. Lorenzo Perosi was born in a family of musicians. His father was a church music director. He will study music since he was very young, and he will show a very good talent for music. This will lead him to study and then to become the conductor of the Sistine Chapel Choir for more than 50 years. But also he will have great struggle in his life, because he will suffer from mental illness. So despite his great popularity, he was really popular everywhere, his music was performed in every choirs, but he will also have to struggle with this very strong illness that will affect him. Even if he was affected by from this illness we mentioned, but he will the same become one of the most important sacred music composer. He was really like an idol in that time. Lots of choir, not only in Italy, but also in other countries, including China, will have pieces of Perosi in their repertoire. His masses, Prima Pontificalis, Secunda Pontificalis, Te Deum Laudamus, will be really a very important landmark of many choirs' repertoires. But we don't have to think that only the pieces more elaborated were favorites in choir repertoire. There were also other pieces that look more simple, but that were so pleasant and so well crafted that will be also an highlight of choirs' performances. Among these pieces, certainly there is the one I want to talk today, Ecce Panis Angelorum, a piece that is taken from the sequence of the Corpus Domini Laudación. We know that the office for the Corpus Domini, the text for the Corpus Domini, were prepared by Saint Thomas Aquinas. There are different settings of the text Ecce Panis Angelorum. This one of Lorenzo Perosi is for soprano, baritone and organ. The piece is dedicated to the canon Ascanio Andreoni. You see the dedication al mio carissimo amico canonico Ascanio Andreoni, to my dearest friend Canon Ascanio Andreoni. Ascanio Andreoni was an expert on Ambrosian chant and on Ambrosian liturgy. Ambrosian chant and liturgy are proper to the Church of Milan in North Italy, the time of Perosi, and also at our own time. He was also, Ascanio Andreoni, the author of several books. We need to say something about the situation of music in 19th century. Regarding church music, especially in Italy, but not only in Italy, church music, sacred music, was strongly influenced by the style of operas. If you read about memoirs or journals of famous composers or travelers to Italy, all of them will tell you that everyone can sing opera. Everywhere was opera, and the people like so much that even very simple people can sing opera arias and duettos and trios and so on and so forth. So opera was not only well and alive in society, but also in church. You don't only find original pieces written in the style of opera music, but you will also find actual opera arias and duos and trios from actual operas that were taken and only with substituting the text and then adapted to the liturgy. So you may find Tantum Ergo or Laudate Dominum on music by Rossini or Verdi or other famous composers. And also for the organ music, that was the situation. You find organ pieces for very meditative moments with setting by very famous operas. So this was not a situation that should be accepted. Indeed, we know that also the popes tried to change the situation, but it was very difficult because the people was so adapt to this kind of music that it was very difficult to make them change their minds. So we may say that in this century, even if the situation was so strongly in favor of opera-style sacred music, but there were movements that tried to change this situation. One was the one that tried to restore a true Gregorian chant, because at the time Gregorian chant was very corrupted, as they say. This movement was started by Don Prosper Guéranger, that want also to rebuild the monastic life, the Benedictine monastic life. So this will be a movement that will try to restore the true version, the authentic version of Gregorian chant. And the epicenter of this movement, was and still is the French monastery of Solesmes. But also there was another movement that, of course, was not in opposition with Solesmes, indeed was on the same tune, that was for the restoration of church music at large. This was a movement that started in Germany and was called, and is called, the Cecilian movement, the Association of Saint Cecilia. And the models that these new associations take for the restoration of sacred music were basically two. One was a Gregorian chant, so they were very in tune with what was happening in Solesmes, and the other one was, the other model was Renaissance polyphony. So they tried to inspire themselves with Gregorian chant and Renaissance polyphony to compose new repertoires that were more adapt to the worship of the Catholic Church. If there was a composer that was considered a kind of idol by all these reformers in favor of a more authentic Catholic sacred music, certainly this composer is Lorenzo Perosi. As I mentioned before, his music was performed everywhere because he was able to write a music also for choirs that were not so advanced, but still music that has a deep value inside. And one example of this is certainly Ecce Panis Angelorum. As I say, Ecce Panis Angelorum was a setting for soprano, baritone, and organ. It's a short piece, it's not a very long piece, it's only 40 bars. And I divide this piece in 3 sections. Section A is made of 8 bars and start with the words Ecce Panis Angelorum, while section B is made of 9 bars and start with the words In figuris praesignatur. And then we go to section C, that is the more extended, and start with the word Bone pastor panis vere Jesu nostri miserere. So it's a simple piece, but also inside has some little complexities. About the rhythm, I would say that the first part has a very fluid kind of melodic style. We have in the first part 4 phrases: Ecce Panis Angelorum, Factus Cibus Viatorum, Vere Panis Filiorum, Non Mittendus Canibus. These 4 phrases are performed by the soprano part, and Perosi would like that this part is performed by soli. He is saying the score soli or solo. Even if I have to say that in all the performances I have listened, basically is sung by the whole female choir, or pueri, or the treble choir. This part is the more fluid, and he used a rhythm that is quite consistent, even if the third and the fourth phrases he will not use the same kind of cadence, for the reason that he doesn't want to make the piece too repetitive. So this phrase is very beautiful, very melodic, all in stepwise fashion and legato. Section B, we saw there was a contrast with section A, and in section C there will be another contrast with section B and section A. The rhythm will be also different, but here in section C there will be some kind of recalling of some melodic fragments of from section A. And also because, as I mentioned before, section C will be the more extended, and there will be more contrast between homorhythmic and imitation. In section B we have some very little imitation. As I say, are only few bars. There is not much time to do things, but there is a little imitation at the end of section B. But in section C there will be more imitations, and especially toward the end with a beautiful sequence between soprano and baritone. The key of the piece is D minor. You can imagine there are no key changes. It's so short piece that the composer has not a lot of time to make experiments in different key signatures. So he's staying in D minor, but of course there are several modulations, and this modulation often close the different section, but also within section there are different modulations. So it go from D minor to F major, then to G minor, then to D minor, B flat major, C minor, G minor, and then at the end return to D minor. So, you know, all these modulations you can see from the piece are very smooth, not very traumatic modulations. They are very smooth. The tempo is 3/2. Why is not using 3/4, for example? In the transcription of early music, usually they use 4/2, 3/2 to, you know, recall the kind of notation that was used at the time of 16th century. So sometimes these composers use this kind of tempo 3/2, 4/2, 2/2 to recall that kind of atmosphere, because as I told you, the influence of Renaissance music was very strong in all the composer in Italy of the time that adhered to the Cecilian ideals or to the ideal of reform of church music. And we have to remember that in Rome, where Perosi was active, you know, he was the conductor of the Sistine Chapel Choir, even if before he was active in other cities, including Venice. But we have the Roman school, and the prince of the Roman school, the most important composer is Giovanni Pierluigi da Palestrina. But not only him, we have also Thomas Luis de Vittoria, Orlando di Lasso, Giuseppe Ottavio Pitoni, later Francesco Foggia, Ruggero Giovannelli, the Nannino brothers, Animuccia, and many other composers of the kind. So really huge repertoire of and huge heritage. So all the composers want to take these great names as a model, and they try to take inspiration. We have to say something about the language, the harmonic language of Perosi. As I say, the piece is certainly in D minor, because Perosi was a tonal composer, but as many composers of his time, he has a strong influence from modal music, from church modes. But we don't have to make the mistake to think that his use of modality of ecclesiastical modes is a use that influences the harmonic structure of his music. Indeed, he used modality more as a color. There will be other composers like Domenico Bartolucci that use modality as the main structure of his harmonic language. And probably other composers in the French school like Maurice Duruflé, they will be more consistent with the modality of the ecclesiastical modes. We have to remember that there will be, especially in France, other composers that will use modality in a different way, creating new modes like Olivier Messiaen and other of this kind. But Perosi certainly will use modality also in this piece. We will have some modal flavor, but is modality used as a color, not as a main structure of the piece. At the beginning of the piece, we find the indication con sentimento. Con sentimento means with feeling, with sentiment. Here we need to always remember that sentiment, feeling, is not the same that sentimentalism. Sometimes some choirs that, and I think this is one difficulty of this piece, they perform this piece in a very romantic way. This is wrong, because we have not to emphasize too much the feeling in a way that become a sort of bad taste version of real feeling. So sentimentalism. No, singing with real intention, with real feeling, is really one of the most difficult challenges. So this is why what I said at the beginning, people think that singing easy pieces or what look as an easy piece is easy, but indeed it's not. It's even more difficult, because there you are like naked. You need to really take out the real expression within the choir. And sometimes when you sing very elaborated pieces, this lack of you know, lack of expression is masked by some feature, you know, some rhythms, some dissonances, some things. But when you have not all of these things and you are left only with your naked expression, so there the problem really starts. The organ accompaniment is really interesting. It's mostly in 3 parts or 4 parts. It's in 3 parts when follow the melodic line that is very fluent. So also the accompaniment become very fluent, very elegant, with some very interesting imitation, inner imitations. But when the melodic parts are more homorhythmic and not so fluent, so the organ part become more static and is usually in 4 parts. When I say that the accompaniment is very elegant, also I want to emphasize that the upper part of the accompaniment follow the soprano part. When the melody is more static, especially in the homorhythmic parts, the accompaniment become in 4 parts and not in 3 parts. I would say that pieces like this are very good for every kind of choir. Even if you are not a church choir, secular music choir, Catholic choir, but these are the pieces that teach you really the good singing. If you are able to sustain long phrases, control the breathing, and know how to be in dialogue with the other parts, and including dialogue with the organ, so you can sing also other so-called difficult pieces much better and with much more intention. So I always say that despite some criticism of Lorenzo Perosi, in his music quite often there is a kind of magic. There is something really really peculiar to his style, and even if sometimes others say that his music is not so technically elaborated, but I should say that you can really see and feel the genius of the composer there. I hope you like this video. If you like it, please follow our channel and also hit the button for the notifications. I will try to include more and more videos, also with more interactive audio and visual content. This is the first video, so maybe it's not so perfect, but I hope that I can improve it in the weeks to come. So please follow me and please follow our channel, and as I say at the beginning, please stay tuned. Bye bye.